of the first considerations that new waterfowl hunters face is, what kind of shotgun am I going to buy? Now, I'm going to break down the process for you in 5 simple considerations that'll make this process a lot easier. The first thing that you should consider is the type of action you want for your shotgun. So, there's only 2 types that I really recommend for waterfowl hunting. There's the pump action shotgun that manually reloads shells. So, the shell will go from the magazine up into the chamber. You'd close the shotgun. It's now closed. You pull the trigger, you fire the shell, then you unload the shell. So an empty shell comes flying out. You pump it again, and a new shell is loaded into the chamber. That's the one type of waterfowl action I would recommend. The only other action that I would recommend is a semi-auto. This is the action that I use the most. What it does is it basically reloads the shell for you without you having to do any manual labor. And basically all you do is just focus on shooting the birds, and it uses gas to flick another shell into your chamber and to load it. You fire, it uses gas to push a new shell into your chamber, and it just goes cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. So it just keeps automatically loading and closing, and you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just keep pulling the trigger and aiming at the bird. There's also other types of actions of shotguns, such as a break action, which is very popular for upland game bird hunting. I don't recommend that style of gun for the reason that you can usually only carry 1 or 2 shells in the gun at a time. With waterfowl hunting, it's really nice to have that 3rd shell just to get that straggler that's just about to escape. Now, if you can't hit a bird after 3 shots, I personally think it's alright just to let it go. And you should laugh at yourself and just kind of say, I'm going to try to get better at hunting, and I need to stop shooting like crap. The second decision that I would like you to consider when choosing your shotgun is, what kind of gauge do you want? There are 3 gauges that I recommend for waterfowl hunting: the 10, the 12, and the 20 gauge shotgun. For those of you who don't know what a gauge is the measurement of the bore diameter of the barrel of a shotgun. So, that might sound a little confusing at first, but basically, the higher the number, such as like a 12 gauge shotgun, the narrower the barrel bore diameter will be. The lower the number, like a 10 gauge shotgun, it'll be a wider bore diameter exiting the gun. I recommend a 20 gauge shotgun for those of you who have a smaller physique, or for youth who are learning how to hunt. It has less of a kick, and you can absolutely knock geese and ducks out of the air with it. You do need to hit them in the head more so than like with a 12 or a 10, as they do have a little bit less of a kick and less of velocity hitting those birds when it leaves the barrel of your shotgun, but they're an excellent gun. I wouldn't recommend gauges higher than 20. I'd say 20 is probably the maximum that I would feel comfortable shooting at a bird. Now, with a 10 gauge shotgun, it's kind of the opposite extreme. You're throwing a bigger kick onto your body, but you're throwing higher velocity BBs and pellets at the birds. I'd say a 10 gauge is more of a novelty gun, and it's very cool to kind of bring it into the blind with you, but there are some cons to it. The fact that it's harder to find ammo, the ammo that you do find is more expensive, and it's a little bit trickier to find parts for your 10 gauge shotgun. For the vast majority of hunters, I recommend the 12 gauge shotgun. The ammo is more affordable, and it's easier to find parts for your gun if anything happens to break. The 12 gauge shotgun has I'd say probably the optimal amount of power to hit down both ducks and geese, and it's also, for the most part, not going to destroy your body. The third consideration I want you to have before choosing your shotgun is, what kind of brand are you going to pick? Now, picking your shotgun is sort of like choosing your magical wand or getting your lightsaber. It has to sort of choose you. There's a lot of different options out there, and when I'm hunting, it's very seldom that I see hunters go into a blind with identical shotguns. Everyone has their own version, everyone has their own brand, and I want that just to give you a little bit of peace of mind. There's more than one right decision when it comes to picking your shotgun. Personally, I'm a big fan of Bennell and Beretta. They're sort of the Lamborghini and Ferraris of shotguns, But I started out hunting with just a Remington 870, and that killed a lot of birds for me. So let that give you a little bit of peace of mind that it's not like if you pick one brand, it's like going to be a disaster and a complete waste of money. Chances are you're going to have great success with that gun as well as you get accustomed to it. Now, prices do vary between shotguns and different brands, and that's something you have to go into a gun store with your budget in mind. Because otherwise, like, you can spend upwards of $3,000 on a shotgun, or you can get a very good reliable one for like $300. So you have to keep that in mind. I will caution you, be very careful about buying a used shotgun. Often, used shotguns have a lot of wear and tear on them. It's not like the same as buying a rifle, you know what I mean, that maybe it'll have, like, over the course of its life, maybe 40 or 50 rounds sent through it. A shotgun, we abuse these things. We literally, on a hunt, some hunts, I've shot over 100 shells through my gun in the course of like 2 hours. So you have to think, over the history and life of that shotgun, how many shells has it seen? So keep that in mind. A new shotgun is a lot more preferable to a used shotgun. The fourth and fifth considerations I would like you to have when you're choosing your shotgun is to consider the length of your barrel and also the length of shells that will fit inside your shotgun. Now, we'll talk more about this in a little bit here where we'll discuss about our buying guide for waterfowl ammunition, but it's important for you to realize right now that waterfowl shells come in different lengths. We have 3.5 shells, 3-inch shells, and 2 3/4-inch shells. It's important to know this because certain shotguns only accept certain lengths of shells. For example, some shotguns only accept 2 3/4-inch, and if you try to put a 3.5-inch shell in there, that would be really bad. Now, I would also like you to consider the fact that the barrel length of your shotgun is important. The shorter the barrel length, the shorter your range is, and also the more dangerous the gun is. If you have a really short barrel, it's a lot easier for you to accidentally point it at something you're not supposed to. So consider that. Now, if you're not sure what the barrel length of your gun is or what size of shells your gun can accept, you can read the inscription right on the barrel itself here. So this one here says this is a 12 gauge gun. It accepts 2 3/4-inch, 3-inch, or 3.5-inch shells, which is excellent. And that's what you want. You want to have guns that give you a lot of options, right? So if I want to go shooting, let's say like teal or pigeons, I can use a smaller shell. And if I want to shoot after bigger birds, I can use a 3-inch or 3.5-inch shell. I recommend longer barrels. They're safer, and they also help you hit birds that are further away. It does make your gun a little bit heavier, but I'd say the pros of having a longer barrel completely outweigh the danger and the shortcomings of a shorter barrel. The average barrel length is around 28 inches, and again, the shortest would be 22, and the longest would be 34.